All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning, I'm Sunil Verma and with me is Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has taken care of domestic as well as global requirement of medicines and other essentials during COVID-19 pandemic. Cabinet approves bill to set up Development Finance Institution with initial capital of 20,000 crore rupees. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says all banks will not be privatized, assures to protect interest of employees during privatization. Parliament passes bill providing outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. Election Commission announces by-elections to Tirupati Lok Sabha seat in Andhra Pradesh and Belgaum in Karnataka. BJP and Congress announced list of candidates for Puducherry Assembly elections. Education Minister describes new education policy as foundation stone for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Offer to sell government's stake in TCL evokes good response. Bidding process for retail investors to open today. France enters third wave of corona pandemic, says French Prime Minister. And in cricket, England beat India by 8 wickets in third T20 International in Ahmedabad to take 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India has taken care of domestic as well as global requirement of medicines and other essentials during COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at the India-Finland Virtual Summit, Mr. Modi said India sent medicines and other essentials to more than 150 countries last year. He highlighted that in recent weeks, more than 58 million doses of Made in India vaccines reached about 70 countries.
इस पैंडेमिक के दौरान भारत ने अपने डोमेस्टिक संघर्ष के साथ साथ विश्व की जरूरतों का भी ध्यान रखा है। पिछले साल हमने 150 से अधिक देशों को दवाइयां और अन्य आवश्यक सामग्री भेजे थे और हाल में हमने लगभग 70 देशों को भारत में बनी वैक्सीन की 58 मिलियन से अधिक डोजेज पहुंची है। मैं आपको आश्वासन देना चाहता हूं कि हम अपनी क्षमता के अनुसार पूरी मानवता को आगे भी सपोर्ट करते रहेंगे।
The Prime Minister emphasized that both Finland and India believe in a rule-based, transparent, humanitarian and democratic global order. Both countries have strong cooperation in areas like technology, innovation, clean energy, environment and education. Mr. Modi said India has targeted 450 gigawatt installed capacity by 2030 in renewable energy. The Prime Minister said initiatives like International Solar Alliance and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure have been taken to increase international cooperation. Mr. Modi urged Finland to join both ISA and CDRI, saying these international institutions will benefit from Finland's ability and expertise. Mr. Modi was happy to note that both nations have announced a new partnership in the field of ICT, mobile technology and digital education.
हम आईसीटी, मोबाइल टेक्नोलॉजी और डिजिटल एजुकेशन के क्षेत्र में एक नई पार्टनरशिप घोषित कर रहे हैं। हमारे शिक्षा मंत्रालय भी एक हाई लेवल डायलॉग आरंभ कर रहे हैं। मुझे आशा है कि आज की हमारी समिट से भारत फिनलैंड संबंधों के विकास में और गति आएगी।
Prime Minister Modi and his Portuguese counterpart, Antonio Luis Santos da Costa, reviewed the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the 2 countries. In a telephonic conversation, both leaders noted the importance of quick and equitable distribution of vaccines for ending of the pandemic. Prime Minister Modi briefed Mr. Costa on India's vaccination drive as well as the support extended by India to more than 70 countries so far. He assured that India would continue to support the vaccination efforts of other countries to the best of its capacity. They reviewed preparations for the first ever India-EU leaders meeting, scheduled to take place under the Portuguese presidency of the EU in Porto in May. Prime Minister Modi appreciated the role being played by Prime Minister Costa for strengthening the India-EU strategic partnership and said that he was looking forward to meeting him in Porto.
Prime Minister Modi will visit Bangladesh on the 26th of this month at the invitation of Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The two-day visit is in connection with the commemoration of three epochal events including Mujib Borsho, the birth centenary of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The other events are 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Bangladesh and 50 years of Bangladesh War of Liberation. This will be the first visit to a foreign country since the outbreak of the COVID pandemic. This highlights the priority India attaches to Bangladesh. The Union Cabinet has approved a bill to set up Development Finance Institution (DFI) with an initial capital infusion of 20,000 crore rupees. The bill will be tabled in Parliament during the current budget session. DFI is expected to raise long-term funds for infrastructure development projects in the country. Briefing reporters after the cabinet meeting, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the initial grant to the DFI will be 5,000 crore rupees and additional increments of grants will be made within the limit of 5,000 crore rupees.
The Cabinet has cleared this bill through which we will have an institutional arrangement which will help in raising long-term funds. The budget provides for the initial amount. I had announced it in the budget saying capital infusion from our side would be about 20,000 crores and initial grant of 5,000 will also be made, and this year itself capital infusion is 20,000 crores.
The Finance Minister said that all banks will not be privatized and assured that wherever it happens, every interest of the employees and staff will be protected. Ms. Sitharaman emphasized that even those banks which are likely to be privatized will continue to function after privatization and every interest of the workers will be taken care of, be it salary or pension.
For those which are likely to be privatized, we are obviously going to have to keep in mind that these privatized institutions will also continue to function after the privatization. We'll also have to ensure that the staff or the personnel who are there, their every interest will be protected.
Railway Minister Piyush Goyal has said that Eastern and Western dedicated freight corridors will become operational in 2022. Participating in the discussion on demands for grants of the Ministry of Railways in Lok Sabha, Mr. Goyal said 2,15,000 crore rupees have been allocated for railways in 2021-22 budget.
जब भारत 75 वर्ष आजादी के मनाएगा तब दोनों डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर ईस्टर्न और वेस्टर्न चालू हो जाएंगे जो वर्षों से लटके पड़े। लेकिन क्या 17 वर्ष लगने चाहिए एक डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर को? उसके बदले अगर सरकार जमीन अधिग्रहण कर ले, सरकार जमीन लेके इसको बिड आउट कर दे तो निजी क्षेत्र अपनी एफिशिएंसी भी लाएगा, निजी क्षेत्र अपने निवेश भी लाएगा, जल्द से जल्द उसको पूरा करेगा, सेवाएं देगा। सेवा किसको मिलेगी? भारत के उद्योग को मिलेगी, लोगों को नई नौकरियां मिलेंगी, भारत के उद्योग को गति मिलेगी तो भारत का जीडीपी जल्द से जल्द 5 ट्रिलियन 10 ट्रिलियन पहुंचेगा।
Mr. Goyal reiterated that the railways is the property of the country and it will not be privatized. Parliament has passed the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Bill 2020 with the Rajya Sabha approving it yesterday. The Lok Sabha had passed the bill in March last year. The bill provides for an outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. The limit is in sync with the advancements in medical technology that allows for the removal of fetus at a relatively advanced stage of pregnancy. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The bill aims to ensure the confidentiality of the process and respects the privacy of women. Besides, the legislation also regulates the conditions under which a pregnancy may be aborted. Currently, abortion requires the opinion of one doctor if it is done within 12 weeks of conception and 2 doctors if it is done between 12 and 20 weeks. The bill allows abortion to be done on the advice of one doctor up to 20 weeks and 2 doctors in the case of certain categories of women between 20 and 24 weeks. The bill also seeks to set up state-level medical boards to decide if a pregnancy may be terminated after 24 weeks in cases of substantial fetal abnormalities. With Divakar, Suparna Saikya, IIR News, Delhi.
Union Education Minister Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has described the new education policy as the foundation stone for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Replying to the discussion on the demands for grants of the Ministry of Education for 2021-22 in Lok Sabha, he said developed countries have flourished with education in mother tongue. He added, keeping this in mind, focus has been given in the policy to promote education in 22 Indian languages. He said this policy has been appreciated across the world. He also said for the first time, artificial intelligence or AI has been incorporated in the school curriculum. Mr. Ramesh said research and innovation have also been focus areas in the new policy. He said 50,000 crore rupees have been allocated for the National Research Foundation over 5 years to boost the research ecosystem in the country. The minister refuted the allegations by the opposition that the budget for the education sector was reduced. Mr. Ramesh said 20% of seats have been increased for girls in IITs. Listing out several measures during the COVID pandemic, the minister said the government has successfully conducted online classes, board examinations and prestigious JEE and NEET entrance exams during the peak of the pandemic.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will make statements in both the Houses of Parliament today regarding India's Vaccine Maitri initiative. In Rajya Sabha, the discussions will be held on the working of Ministry of Railways, Ministry of Food Processing Industries and Ministry of Tourism. In Lok Sabha, the discussion and voting will be held on the demands for grants of Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for 2021-22. Meanwhile, BJP has reportedly issued a whip to all its members in the Lok Sabha to be present in the House throughout the day today. President Ram Nath Kovind is scheduled to visit Odisha on the 21st and 22nd of March. During his two-day visit to the state, the President will inaugurate the Rourkela Steel Plant Run Ispat General Hospital in Rourkela, besides attending other programs. More from our Bhubaneswar correspondent.
Prior to President's momentous visit to Odisha, Union Petroleum and Natural Gas and Steel Minister Dharmendra Pradhan called on the President at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi yesterday to extend a formal invitation to him for his forthcoming visit. On the occasion, the Union Minister presented him with a traditional cotton towel known as gamcha in local parlance as a humble invitational gesture. Later, Mr. Pradhan tweeted, "Honored to present him with a traditional hand-woven cotton gamcha made by Dalit artisans from Atmalik town of Angul district in Odisha." Meanwhile, the state administration is working out the nitty-gritties of security protocols along with COVID safety measures in connection with the visit. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has taken care of domestic as well as global requirement of medicines and other essentials during COVID-19 pandemic. Cabinet approves bill to set up Development Finance Institution with initial capital of 20,000 crore rupees. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says all banks will not be privatized, assures to protect interest of employees during privatization. Parliament passes bill providing outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. Election Commission announces by-elections to Tirupati Lok Sabha seat in Andhra Pradesh and Belgaum in Karnataka. BJP and Congress announced list of candidates for Puducherry Assembly elections. Education Minister describes new education policy as foundation stone for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Offer to sell government stake in TCL evokes good response. Bidding process for retail investors to open today. France enters a third wave of corona pandemic, says French Prime Minister. And in cricket, England beat India by 8 wickets in third T20 International in Ahmedabad to take 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो खुद से वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Election Commission has announced by-elections to Tirupati Lok Sabha constituency in Andhra Pradesh and Belgaum Lok Sabha seat in Karnataka, as well as 14 vacancies in assembly constituencies of various states. By-polls will be held for one seat each in Gujarat, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Mizoram, Nagaland, Odisha, Telangana, Uttarakhand, 2 seats in Karnataka and 3 assembly seats in Rajasthan. The polling will be held on the 17th of April and counting of votes will take place on the 2nd of May. The last date of filing of nominations is 30th of March and withdrawal of candidature is 3rd of April. BJP and Congress have released list of candidates for the Puducherry Assembly elections. More from our Puducherry correspondent.
The Congress has announced 14 candidates for the 2021 election with 1 woman candidate, and the BJP fielded 9 candidates. After a long discussion, the ADMK was given 5 seats. In Congress, former Revenue Minister MOHF Shahjahan, Agriculture Minister R. Kamalakannan and Welfare Minister M. Kandaswamy will seek a re-election. The Congress State President A.V. Subramanian will contest from Karaikal North, but the Chief Minister V. Narayanasamy and Deputy Speaker M.N.R. Balan are not contested in this election. Balan's Wolgaret constituency has been given to Vidudalai Chiruthaiyal Katchi this time. BJP has announced 9 candidates. Former PWD Minister A. Namasivayam, who joined BJP recently, will contest from Mannadipet constituency. BJP State Secretary V. Swaminathan will fight elections from Laspet. From the AIADMK side, all the 4 former legislators were given seat, including the party secretary Mr. Anbalagan, who is going to contest from Uppalam constituency. Chandramohan, AR News, Puducherry.
In Tamil Nadu, a total of 1,223 candidates have filed their nominations and 2 contestants, including former Union Minister Pon Radhakrishnan, have filed for Lok Sabha by-election yesterday. Of these, 210 candidates are women. Meanwhile, the state has also registered a surge in the number of COVID-positive cases. The State Chief Secretary, Rajiv Ranjan, has appealed to the public to take utmost precautions to prevent the epidemic from spreading. Law enforcing agencies and health department have been given a free hand to penalize those violating COVID guidelines such as wearing face masks, social distancing and use of hand sanitizers. More from our Chennai correspondent.
In the sweltering heat of summer, public rallies and door-to-door campaigning across the state has created the mood for political talks everywhere. With nominations to end this Friday, election rallies are not crowd pullers like before as COVID's presence has an impact on the public. Parties have sought permissions for star campaigners who are likely to descend next week. A separate circular has been issued to the Taskmark shops to issue bills for every bottle. With Murthy, Joy, AR News, Chennai.
A total of 174 nominations were found valid for the second phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Additional CEO of the state, Sanjay Basu, told reporters yesterday that 2 nominations have been rejected during scrutiny held on Monday.
Union Minister and senior BJP leader Prakash Zavadekar has accused the Trinamool Congress of attacking the BJP's Rath Yatra in Purulia in West Bengal. Addressing the media in New Delhi, Mr. Zavadekar termed the attack by TMC goons as a disrespect to democracy and Baba Saheb, as it was Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar Samman Rath Yatra. He said the act shows TMC's frustration as they have realized that they are going to lose in the assembly elections. Mr. Zavadekar demanded the Election Commission to take cognizance of the matter.
जिस तरह से हमारे रथ यात्राओं पर पहले पाबंदी लगाना, बाद में हमले करना, यही टीएमसी की संस्कृति है. अब टीएमसी हार रही है, बीजेपी आ रही है और इसलिए ये सब काम टीएमसी पार्टी कर रही है. हम इसकी भर्त्सना करते हैं और चुनाव आयोग को चाहिए कि स्वतः संज्ञान लेकर ऐसे सभी घटनाओं के लिए उचित कार्रवाई करनी चाहिए.
In poll-bound Assam, today is the last day of withdrawal of nomination of the second phase. Nominations of 377 candidates have been found valid in this phase. Polling will be held in 39 seats on 1st of April in the second phase. On the other hand, 25 candidates filed nomination for the third phase of polls yesterday. More from our Guwahati correspondent.
Several senior leaders of different political parties would file their nomination papers today. State BJP President Ranjit Kumar Das will submit his nomination paper. The party has fielded him at Patasargusi. In this election, instead of Sarvog, the Congress has given ticket to youth leader Shantanu Sharma at Patasargusi. Several senior leaders of NDA, including Union Minister Narendra Singh Tomar and Chief Minister Sarvananda Sonowal, will accompany Mr. Das today. Meanwhile, senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath will campaign for party candidates at multiple venues today. AIUDF Chief Badruddin Ajmal. Senior Congress leaders Jitendra Singh, Ripun Bora and Rakibul Hussain would also campaign at various places. Bodoland People's Front, Assam Gana Parishad, Assam Jatiya Parishad are also holding rallies to the voters. Manaspati Sharma, AR News, Guwahati.
The offer for sale of government shares in TCL received a huge response on the first day of its launch. The issue has been subscribed 2.19 times of its base size at a clearing price above the floor price by the non-retail investors. The government has decided to exercise the green shoe option, which provides the issuer with a provision to offer more shares than initially decided while launching the scheme. The bidding process for retail investors will open today.
The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has crossed 3,48 lakh. These include over 75 lakh healthcare workers who have taken the first dose and over 45 lakh healthcare workers who've taken the second dose. The Union Health Ministry has said that more than 1,14 lakh beneficiaries over 60 years of age and more than 21 lakh beneficiaries aged 45 and above with specific comorbidities have been inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine doses. The ministry said a total of over 19 lakh 11,000 vaccine doses were given yesterday. Information and Broadcasting Ministry Secretary Amit Khare will hold a meeting today with senior officers of 12 states and union territories showing an increase in new COVID cases. He will review the communication strategies being followed in these states to contain the surge of new COVID-19 cases and encourage successful implementation of vaccination drive. These states are Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Himachal Pradesh, Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh.
Gujarat's Health Commissioner and Principal Health Secretary Dr. Jayanti Ravi appealed to the people of the eligible age group to come forward for the vaccination. Addressing an orientation workshop for media at Ahmedabad, she said that coronavirus is still there and should not be taken lightly. Participating in a panel discussion, the State Immunization Officer Dr. Nayan Jani said that Gujarat has more than 2,400 vaccination centres at government and private facilities. He said that COVID-appropriate behaviour is a must even after taking the vaccine.
फर्स्ट डोज, सेकंड डोज के 15 डेज के बाद सफिशिएंट इम्यूनिटी क्रिएट होती है. एक बार 2 डोज ले दिया, 15 डेज भी हो गया, 100% सेफ हो गए, ऐसी बात नहीं है. कोविड अप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर भी चालू रखने का है. कोई भी वैक्सीन 100% एफिकेसी नहीं होता. जब हर्ड इम्यूनिटी क्रिएट होते देन अपने आप लोगों को कोरोना नहीं होगा. अभी हमें और वैक्सीनेट करना है लोगों को.
In Maharashtra, Nagpur is witnessing a spike in COVID-19 cases. Our correspondent reports that administration has imposed strict restrictions to control the situation.
Yesterday, 2,587 corona cases have been found in Nagpur city. This is the 4th consecutive day of registering cases over 2,000. In Nagpur city, a complete lockdown has been declared till March 21st within the municipal and the police commissionerate area, where certain relaxation have also been given to industries. But observing the sudden spike in cases, the district administration has given permission to open vegetable, milk and other daily needs shops in lockdown period till 1 in afternoon only. Arrangements have also been made for COVID vaccination at 17 government hospitals and 55 private hospital vaccination centers located in Nagpur. The recovery rate of Nagpur district is 86.62%. Yesterday, 18 people died due to corona and the number of deaths in Nagpur district has now increased to 4,489. Dhananjay Wankhede for AR News, Nagpur.
French Prime Minister Jean Castex says France has entered a third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic as the 7-day average of new cases rose above 25,000 for the first time since November. French health authorities reported 29,975 new cases yesterday, a 4.5% jump over last Tuesday's total. This is the sharpest week-on-week rise in a month and a half. France is grappling with a steady rise of new cases, leading to a heavy strain on the country's hospital system, which prominent health experts say can be tackled only by a new lockdown. President Emmanuel Macron is still hoping a vaccination drive can stave off the effects of a new pandemic wave triggered by more contagious variants and thus prevent France from resorting to a third national lockdown. In Gujarat, the Sabarmati to Dandi March launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the inauguration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, is getting overwhelming response on its route. Our Ahmedabad correspondent reports that the reenactment of the historic Dandi March of Mahatma Gandhi is also proving to be the biggest platform for displaying Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat on its route.
Reenact of Dandi March, flagged off by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 12th March, now travelling in Anand district. They are also spreading the message of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat in the rural folks of Gujarat. Earlier, the Dandi Yatra was welcomed by Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani at Nadiyad. Special programs have been organized to showcase the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat in the villages of Kheda district. After travelling for 4 days in Anand district, the Dandi marchers will enter in Bharuch district by crossing Mahisagar river through boat. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
On to sports. In cricket, England defeated India by 8 wickets in the third T20 match in Ahmedabad last night to take 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. Chasing a target of 157 runs set by India, England comfortably made 158 for 2 in 18.2 overs. For the visitors, Joss Buttler was the highest scorer with an unbeaten 83. Earlier, riding on skipper Virat Kohli's valiant knock of 77 runs, India had scored 156 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in 20 overs. For England, Mark Wood took 3 wickets.
And now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. National capital Delhi, after a mist morning, will have a maximum temperature of nearly 34 degrees Celsius. It registered 17 degrees as the minimum temperature. Mumbai, with a clear sky, will have a maximum temperature of around 35 degrees Celsius. The city recorded a minimum of 22 degrees. Chennai is likely to have a partly cloudy sky, with temperature rising up to 32 degrees Celsius. The minimum temperature in the city was 24 degrees. Kolkata, with mainly clear sky, is likely to have a maximum temperature of around 36 degrees Celsius. The minimum was 23 degrees. Srinagar is likely to experience thunderstorm with rain, and the temperature will hover between 6 and 12 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have mainly clear sky, but there is also forecast of partly cloudy sky in afternoon or evening. It will have a maximum temperature of around 27 degrees Celsius. Leh is expected to have partly cloudy sky towards afternoon or evening. It will have a maximum of 10 degrees Celsius temperature, rising from -2 degrees Celsius. Gilgit will have a generally cloudy sky with temperature hovering between 5 and 17 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad is likely to have partly cloudy sky with a maximum temperature of around 22 degrees Celsius.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. The Hindu leads with the centre's assurance that vaccines to foreign countries will not be at the expense of Indians. Punjab surpasses Kerala in daily cases, next only to Maharashtra, reports the Tribune. Lack of COVID norms at Kumbh raises super spreader event fear, writes Hindustan Times. Domestic airfares up 10 to 20% as vaccination picks up, writes the Hindu Business Line. Moderna announces start of dosing in vaccine trials for children aged between 6 months and 12 years, reports Hindustan Times. China makes it mandatory for people coming from India and 19 other countries to get Chinese-made COVID vaccines to enter China, reports The Pioneer. The top headline in the Indian Express reads, 8 ministries list assets for monetization from stations to telecom towers, pipelines to roads. Bank strike ends, term may intensify, headlines The Asian Age. And finally, quoting the World Air Quality Report, the Times of India headlines, Delhi still world's most polluted capital.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has taken care of domestic as well as global requirement of medicines and other essentials during COVID-19 pandemic. Cabinet approves bill to set up Development Finance Institution with initial capital of 20,000 crore rupees. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says all banks will not be privatized, assures to protect interest of employees during privatization. Parliament passes bill providing outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. Election Commission announces by-elections to Tirupati Lok Sabha seat in Andhra Pradesh and Belgaum in Karnataka. BJP and Congress announced list of candidates for Puducherry Assembly elections. Education Minister describes new education policy as foundation stone for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Offer to sell government stake in TCL evokes good response. Bidding process for retail investors to open today. France enters third wave of corona pandemic, says French Prime Minister. And in cricket, England beat India by 8 wickets in third T20 International in Ahmedabad to take 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.